Life is a series of unscripted experiences that forge us into unique individuals. These are the experiences and stories of those who possess the will, beliefs, and fortitude required to overcome obstacles, pursue their passions, and achieve success. Welcome to the HawkCast with your host, AJ Hawk.
Let's see. At the moment, our guy, Matt Walsh, turned his iPad to the ceiling of his hotel room.
I had to get some nicotine gum.
You're good, man. Don't worry about it. That's why podcasts are great, because they're so, it's organic. It just happens. Whatever happens, happens, man. So, but Matt, I really appreciate you coming on, man. I know you're a very busy man, but thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm honored to be on the show.
Well, so people obviously know you, especially people that see you know you. I would say for sure. Everybody knows your face.
Yeah.
But you've been in a million movies, million TV shows. Right now you're currently on one of my favorite shows, Veep. But the first question I would want to ask you, honestly, how did the sketch back in, I think, 98 come about? My favorite one ever, called Ass Pennies. Did you write that?
No, Ian Roberts wrote it. And he was in the Upright Citizens Brigade. And he was obsessed with, I don't know how he came up with the idea, but it's basically about power and psyching yourself up for an interview. And so Ian wrote that sketch.
It's absolutely amazing, man. When I think about it, how you guys acted out, that's obviously a huge part of it. But from beginning to end, to think of all that, and then your guys' execution of it was just, did you guys film all that in one day?
We filmed it all in one take. The director, Phil Morrison, wanted to do the entire scene in one take. There might be one cutaway, but we basically did 25 takes on a golf course. I had my brother in the background as an extra. We had to choreograph people on other holes. And we had to actually, Ian had such a bad golf swing, they had to chyron the ball traveling. He never hit the ball. He wasn't a golfer.
Wow. So the course was open for play? There was guys just out there playing while you were filming that?
Well, they were extras. We took over 3 holes or something, and we had people out in the sun, going back and forth for the background.
Yeah.
Get on the golf cart.
For anyone that hasn't seen it, all you got to do is YouTube Ass Pennies, and it's the first thing that shows up. And I saw it when I was a little, man, when it first came out. I mean, I probably saw it, I don't know, not 98, but maybe 10 years ago. And I remembered it. And then I just thought of it last year, probably about 6 to 8 months ago. I thought about it, and so I watched it again, and it was even better than I remembered. And I have a very jealous, one of my old strength coaches. I told him I'd be talking to you, and we used to go back and forth talking about that sketch all the time. And he's memorized every single line. So he already emailed me, and he's like, "Send me that link once you get it. Once you're done with your talk, man. I need to see that." And he, of course, quoted 4 of your lines from there. So
that's the one. That is the one sketch everybody remembers from UCB.
Okay, good. I was going to ask that. Is that the one that you probably get that people ask you the most about?
Yeah, that is the one that that or Little Donnie. I don't know if you remember Little Donnie.
What happened in that one exactly?
He was a boy with an enormous penis that he was unaware of.
I have seen that. Yeah, I saw that before Ass Pennies, but I haven't gone back and revisited it yet. I will after this talk for sure.
Yeah, it's a must. Yeah, you got to go back.
Just the premise of it. But you were one of the founders of UCB, right?
Yeah.
You, Amy Poehler, and a couple other people?
Matt Besser, Ian Roberts, myself, and Amy Poehler came out of Chicago. We were already a sketch group. And then in 96, we drove out to New York with all our props and tried to get a sketch show. And we got a sketch show in 2 years.
So you guys, and now, I mean, is UCB a franchise now? Because you guys have them all over.
We have 2 theaters in New York and 2 in LA.
Okay, and are those owned by you guys?
Yeah.
Okay, and you just continue to, it's like you guys have your own little niche. I'm a big fan of stand-up, and then I hear, it's like there's a lot of crossover, obviously. It's not considered stand-up, technically, is it?
No, it's a comedy theater. We were improvisers in Chicago, but sketch performers, and so when we got to New York, we would do we had like 3 sketch shows we were doing, and then we did a free improv night where we would just do this thing called long form improv, where you get one suggestion, you get a monologist, and then you do scenes off of the stories that the monologist tells. And so many people were fascinated with that we started teaching classes in New York, and then the class money kind of paid for, we could make short movies or films or travel to LA, and then we evolved it into a school. We never thought we'd be teaching improv, but the theater basically makes money teaching classes, and then all the shows, which are sketch, stand-up, one-man show, some improv, all the tickets are like $5 or $7. We kept the tickets cheap so college kids could see it, and then the classes kind of pay for the building.
And that's, you guys were kind of at the heart of, or the start of all of that, it seems like. I know, the Groundlings, is that another school?
Groundlings is out of LA. They've been around for probably 20 years. Second City out of Chicago has been around for 50 years practically. ImprovOlympic is another one. They've been around for 35 years.
Did you, was your goal always to do like improv into acting, or do you ever want to get on like SNL or Mad TV?
Never auditioned for SNL, never auditioned for Mad TV. I auditioned for The Daily Show, and I was on The Daily Show for a year and a half with Jon Stewart.
How do you feel about him leaving?
He's done. He's done it great. He's been at the top of that program. I mean, there's nobody better at that format than him. So I kind of, from what I read, it sounds like he's looking into the future, and there's another election coming up, and he just wasn't into it. He wasn't into doing the same thing again.
Well, from what I've seen on him, I mean, it's a crazy amount of work that he has to put in to put that show out, and I know he is heavily involved in it. When you were there, would you see how like involved, like how much of the show did he have a hand in? Was it pretty much all of it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a head writer who does the lion's share of the writing, then there's a staff of writers. But I think every day they come in, John and the head writer will sit down and they'll say, here's the stories we need to cover. This is what we want to do pieces on. Then they all go away. There's probably 10 or 12 writers. They write stuff, and then John, the head writer, will help develop it and cut things, and then he'll present it to John, and then John will go through and make cuts or add things, and then they just work it all day up until showtime. So John's a big part of it, yeah.
Yeah, I have a ton of respect for the work that he does, and anybody. I don't watch it every night or anything, but I know how tough it is to put content like that out every single, for 20 years, whatever his show has run. So I know it's Trevor Noah taking over, right, the stand-up?
Yeah. And
they went back. Who was it? What idiot blogger or whoever went back over his tweets like 10 years ago and got mad at him? Did he tweet something bad? How do you feel like that whole world coming after stand-ups? I feel like when they come after, obviously, the whole politically correct situation going on, everyone just wants to be offended and wants to be mad. Do you think stand-ups and improv guys like you are the last line of defense, like the last people that hopefully at least can put your stuff out there and take chances to be creative without having the repercussions that it seems like everybody has? I know you as an actor, you definitely, if you say something off the cuff that can be taken the wrong way, you could lose gigs for it.
Yeah, it's a different world if you say it to a friend as opposed to putting it on Twitter, because it'll live there forever. So you do have to be a little conscious of what you're saying, or you can't don't get drunk and tweet or stuff like that. Or, you can't treat it like you're sending a text to your buddy. I mean, I've been on email chains or text chains are the filthiest, most awful things in the world, but you're assuming that everybody's cool and no one's going to see it. But I guess if that stuff gets out there, I mean, I would hope that at the end of the day, he seems like a good guy, and that's one thing that's taken out of context. I would think the storm will subside, and I think everybody's standing by him right now.
Yeah, I just thought it was crazy and I don't really know much about him. I don't even know what they came after him about. I'm not sure what his tweet was, what kind of joke he was making. But I feel like if it's comedy, I think they should have free reign to say whatever you want. And great, I'm allowed to be offended by it, but that doesn't mean I can get him fired for it. Like, I don't think anything you guys say in the heat of a moment on a stage should get you fired. Yeah, I mean,
you're right. I mean, you should have. There's a couple things. One is like when stand-ups do new material, or they try things out in a small room, you can't judge it like it's going to be perfect. You have to be allowed to make mistakes. It's like practice, basically. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is that it's not really about the morality of the issue. It's just money. Like if Comedy Central sees that they're going to lose money, then they're going to back away and they're going to get rid of them. It's not a moral issue at all. It's just like, I'm sure. Are you guys coached when you come to a team about what to say and what not to say?
Yeah, different teams are different, are more lax than others, but of course, yeah, the same thing that you were saying. I mean, if it's out there, it can be out there forever. It's like when people try to tell your little kids. I have a 4 and a 2-year-old, and I tell them, hey, if you ever tweet something or take a picture or whatever, it's out there forever. It can never really be taken down.
Yeah.
So that's what they basically try to get the point across to guys and tell them, hey, if you think this is like a funny joke or something that you're going to put on Twitter, a little thing, and then I'm sure you've seen it. Guys will do it where they'll say something stupid and they delete it 2 minutes later, but it doesn't matter. It's already been screenshotted. It's there for life.
But do they give you guidelines like don't be seen using alcohol, no nakedness? Like, is it like that? Is it that specific?
It's usually not that specific. They try to, in college, maybe, I think they do now. When I was in college 9.5, 10 years ago, I don't think Twitter was around, Facebook was, but there was no Twitter or anything, and people's phones had cameras, but not like now. They were more specific then, yeah. I think they would definitely tell you, like, you don't want to be seen drinking. And even now, they don't tell you don't do that, but they'll tell you use common sense and be smart. It's probably not a great look to be standing there with like a bottle of vodka and an AR-15, which has happened many times. Guys that will post a picture like they think they're cool or something. I'm like, it's just not the image you need to put out there if you want to try to get a job. Yeah,
and if you're an awesome player, if you're a stud player, they're going to stand by you for a while, right?
Yep, that's the thing, man. It'll depending on how good you are, is how long a leash you might have. And then the second that your productivity goes down, that leash shortens up quick.
Yeah, if you're a marginal player, like on special teams, they'd probably get rid of you after 1 or 2 offenses, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, depending on the team, different teams, like depending on their owner and GM, are more strict than others and kind of put up with more. But for sure, it's the old. I don't know if you've heard the old story. I don't know if it's true or not. That was Jimmy Johnson, I think, walked in and saw like his third-string quarterback or someone sleeping in a meeting, and he cut him right there. He's like, "Get up, pack your stuff. You're out of here. You're off the team." And someone asked him, "Would you do that to Troy Aikman?" And he's like, "Nah, hell no. Troy's a starter. I'd wake him up and give him a glass of water." I'm not sure if that's true or not, but that's what like the old saying goes around, and I understand it, man. It's the whole thing. It's not morality. It's money.
Yeah.
Troy's going to win you rings, and he's going to get you money, and when you win rings, good things happen to you.
Yeah.
You're Jimmy Johnson living in Florida with a boat and flying private out to L.A. every weekend to do a football show.
Did you ever have a scandal or a marginal issue where you were a little bit media hot water?
Not really. Not for anything I've said that I know of, but there's like a little inside joke with one of my coaches probably 3-4 years ago, and I got a sack in a game against the Rams, and I stood up and I flicked off my coach like directly on the sidelines. and the funny thing is I'd done it in previous games before that, but I didn't get caught on camera. And of course that one, I guess the camera was on me because I just sacked, I think, Sam Bradford at the time, and that got caught. Boom. When I came in for halftime already, like every team has PR guys, and I was in Green Bay, and the PR guy's like, "Hey, I'm just letting you know, it got caught. They're going to screenshot that. It's everywhere. It's all over it, whatever. You're going to have to do something." I was like, "Get out of here, man. Like, come to me after the game." And I actually did apologize. Whatever. I mean, it wasn't a fake. I hate fake apologies more than anything. I'm sure you do too. But I just apologized to anyone I felt like. I was like, "Hey, I have kids myself. I'll show my kids this, and I'll tell them, hey, this is a teaching lesson." I said, if some parents act like they were mad at me because they said, "Oh, I was watching the game with my 6-year-old, and they saw that." And I'm like, I understand what you're saying a little bit, but I had young kids at the time, or a young daughter at the time. I'm like, I'm going to tell her, hey, you know what? Dad's very passionate about what he does, and sometimes I get carried away, and I owned up to it, and I apologized, and boom, moved on. So.
And was it like an inside joke, or were you mad at the coach?
Oh, I wasn't mad. No, it was a joke, like literally a joke with him. And so And that's what. So after that, I'm like, all right, man. I guess I'm not doing that anymore. I had to tell, not the head coach, but yeah. So that's what was like. Yeah, it's just stupid that it got caught. That's how dumb I am, though. I'm thinking like, oh, there's no way they're not going to see it. They're not going to see this. Just between me and one guy. There are a couple of teammates too.
That's funny.
So what about you? You ever do anything? You ever say anything that got you, that lost you a gig, or didn't get you, an audition you might not have got to get in on?
No, I don't think I've ever pissed off anybody or had a scandal where I had to apologize or hot water.
Would you apologize if you said, say you like in an improv sketch, someone got you on film just saying just a joke that wasn't meant to hurt anybody, but people take it out of context? Would you give a fake apology?
No, we're pretty good. We stand by it because it is like we've had complaints where, because like improv is like somebody could give you a suggestion like racism or
what if they threw out like Bill Cosby? What if they threw that out? Of course, someone's gonna.
Sure.
Yeah.
We're gonna end up doing scenes that explore his history, his current problems, the idea of being a sexual molester or whatever. We're gonna do a lot of stuff around that. It won't be the whole show. But on any given thing, there could be moments, you're right, out of context. And so we may have given money back when we didn't want to, but it helped put it away. But we've never, like, apologized. We've always stood by, like, it's comedy and it's improv. There's no script. It's not premeditated. And hopefully, if there was, and it's never happened, if there was, like, a show where every week it was, like, awful or racist or something that was, like, deplorable, then we would get rid of that show and apologize for it. But if it's a moment in an improv show that otherwise succeeds and is funny and proves it's intelligent, then there's no apology needed.
I agree. I don't think you guys should have to apologize for anything because no matter what, it's just something I don't know. I struggle with it when people want to sit there and I don't like say like Bill Burr's trying out he just put a special out and he's trying to build a new hour. He's going to go work on 20 minutes of new material. And some of it might offend you. Great. That when he's on, that's why he's hilarious. Part of the time is because he's right on the edge of like what's, people look around like, can he say that? Is he allowed to say that? And I'm like, that stuff's funny sometimes. But
yeah,
people are going to get offended maybe at times. But I think in comedy, anything goes in comedy. You can go anywhere you want. And so,
well, the bottom line is if it's funny.
Exactly.
Like, that's the beauty of it. If it's funny, then you stand by it. And I think Amy Schumer got in trouble for some Mexican joke.
I think, yeah, didn't they go back into her? I think they went back into her acts or something and said, yeah, it was a weird deal. I heard her on Opie and Anthony or Opie and Jimmy now. I don't know if you've gone on that show or not in New York.
No.
But I heard she was on there like last week defending herself and just saying how dumb it was. I think it was like a couple years old. They went back and said something how she didn't even approach race or something, and she made some kind of joke that she had to kind of backtrack on or just explain more.
Yeah, I mean, anything out of context is weird. You're not going to get it's not going to work.
Well, it's like, it's like reading the headlines of a newspaper or something. The headlines can say anything. Man jumps out of a plane and kills himself, and then all of a sudden you read the story and he was in a flight simulator in the basement of his house, something stupid like that. Like that's a terrible example, by the way, but
Or America sucks, and then you go into the article, and it's just one guy's opinion who wrote a book called America Sucks.
Exactly.
So you're not. Yeah,
that's true. To get in, so obviously, if anyone looks up your whole IMDb and all that, you've been in so many movies, I feel like, and you've been in. How did you get hooked up? It seems like you're on that old. You're in all those Todd Phillips movies. How'd you get hooked up with him?
Todd saw me audition for Road Trip when he was in New York seeing actors, and he sort of fell in love with me. He was like one of those guys who had he was very nice to me, and ever since then, and a friend of mine, Scott Armstrong, also wrote with him, and so there was a couple movies where they wrote a character with me in mind, and I didn't have to audition. So I was fortunate that Todd, sometimes directors fall in love with you, and they're like, this guy's great. I'm going to use him as much as I can.
And so they'll write a character direct just for you?
Yeah, there was a Walsh was my character name in Old School.
Oh yeah, I know.
So
It's beautiful, man. That's when you what's not Luke Wilson? What's the Wilson nose in it?
Luke.
Is it Luke?
Yeah, Luke was the one who slapped me.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
He slaps you and then he feels bad.
Yeah.
That's like that scene. That's one of the best scenes in that whole movie. I love he smacks you and then grabs you and like caresses you and says he's sorry.
Yeah.
Did you guys have to? How many times did you have to go over that one? Did you film it a bunch?
We did it like 3 or 4 times. I told him to, slap good. It didn't hurt.
Was that if you had to pick? I mean, it's probably trying to like pick your favorite kids, but if you had to pick like the movie you had the most fun shooting, what would you pick?
I think you're right. I think it's all, they're all pretty good generally. There's a few ones that aren't. Generally, dramas aren't as fun as comedy. That's all I'd say. Dramas are a little more heavy, and people aren't joking around. It's pretty serious, and they get into character before the take, so they don't really talk to you. And then afterwards, they're still in the moment. So I would just say dramas are less fun than comedies.
Are you ever whatever you call it? Not a character actor, but you ever get in character, early on like Daniel Day-Lewis and lives his whole life as Lincoln?
No way. I think no comedian does that. Sorry.
Well, because you guys have to deal with other comedians and all that, they would never stop harassing you if you were in character when you were talking to a comedian. Comedy's pretty light. It's like, I don't know, between plays on the football field, you don't have to stay pumped. You can chill out. Yeah, you have to kind of regroup and get your breath back and
in comedy you just drop it the minute they say cut. But drama you kind of people stay in it a little more.
Do you ever want to get into more serious roles as you get older?
I like action movies. I would do action movies if I could do anything, like stunts and all that shit. That's what I like.
So since that's the thing, since you're such a funny dude and you have like, this awesome, I don't know if you call it sarcastic, dry humor, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I'm just thinking of your character in Veep because my wife and I, it's one of the few shows we will actually watch together. We don't agree on many shows, and Veep and House of Cards, Kevin Spacey.
I love House of Cards, yeah.
I mean, yeah, both those are our 2 shows, and you're unbelievable in that. And one of my favorite scenes in the show, I think it was the 4th season, is when you talk about how you feel famous, how you got recognized on the street. What do you say? Something about how
I saw somebody and he recognized me, and then I didn't recognize him. It was a terrible story, and then it turns out I did know him, but he was already gone. And they're like, "Oh, that's a great story, Mike."
Oh yeah, I feel like everybody watches Veep. Is that where are you guys at in the process of that? Are you already renewed and are about to shoot for season 5?
Yeah, season 5. The first 4 we shot in Baltimore, and then this year we're going to go back to LA and shoot. So we're moving back to LA, and season 5 will start up in October. And right now the writers are in the writers' room figuring out the storylines for season 5, how to figure out what they're going to do.
And is that it's a dumb question, but is that a fun show to shoot?
Oh, the best. It's one of the rare comedy shows. We do a lot of improv and rehearsal where we explore the scenes and put the script down, and the writers are in the room taking notes, and then the next draft of the script reflects what we discovered in that.
I think I saw you you said that in a previous interview somewhere, how because that's like the hack question that everyone wants to ask you, like how much of the show is improv? They think you improv like every line and all you guys are just riffing the whole time, and you said something like you said like less than 5% is improv, right?
Yeah, by the time we get to on stage filming, it's like you can come up with a joke, or you can say, I want to do something with this dumb ornament on the desk, or you can try little things, or you can play with the blocking. But generally, there's enough funny on the page. You just want to shoot that. And I always feel, because there's so many scenes to shoot, that you don't really want to waste time looking for new jokes and burning people's daylight.
And I know you said like the writers will be in the room when you guys are rehearsing, and if you guys are improv in there and trying to come up with things, they'll write it down and write, like keep rewriting right up until you guys shoot. Is that normal for a show?
I don't think so. I think it's unique. I think most shows, certainly, it's a British show in that the guy who created it was British and all the writers were British. So the process this guy Armando set up is very unique. Like in America, writers don't ever really talk to the actors for ideas generally. They kind of develop everything on their own, and they're sort of more powerful than the way the British guys set up this show. This show is very collaborative, and they want input. So it is a rare, like between the second and the third season, for example, Armando had a dinner with each of the characters on the show, and he said, "What would you like your character to do next season?" That would never happen on an American show. They don't want to know. They just, the extreme example is like Aaron Sorkin. He's a guy who you have to say every single word on the page, the commas. He wants to hear everything he wrote. Where our show is much more collaborative, and you can kind of paraphrase if you need to.
And that's that Armando, or he's the director?
Armando's the creator. He's what's called the showrunner.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I've seen, there's a great documentary on showrunners that I watched.
Oh, yeah.
It's great, man. Those guys, that's not an easy job.
That's kind of the brains of the show. I mean, the directors, Armando has directed, and directors do influence a lot, but most of the comedic influence and vision for a show comes out of the showrunner.
Okay, and so, that seems like it has to be very rare for a guy to sit down with each of you and ask where you want to go. That's pretty, I would think most guys are way more arrogant than that and don't care and just give you and think you're lucky to work on my show.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he is definitely he's the dictator, but he's like a benevolent dictator. He's not a pushover. Like if he says, no, let's do this, then you move on. There's no like mutiny or anything. It's very clean and it's clear who's in charge. But they want jokes and they want ideas.
Is that, let's say like in a movie, is the director the guy who sets the tone and like creates the atmosphere on the set?
Yeah, movies are different because like the writers in movies generally are more like slaves. Like they just send them away. Give me another draft. Give me another draft. And sometimes they're on set and they'll write new jokes. But the director in movies totally sets the tone. Totally is the general. A lot of power. It all comes through him. And they'll often throw new lines out, etc.
So if a director, I mean, it's basically like a coach, I would imagine. So if a director is like a hard driving dude that is no fun, like wants every word that he has written, like he treats it as gold, and if you mess around, I would imagine if working for directors makes a movie either fun to shoot and easy, or it could be very difficult and stressful.
Yes. If you got a script that was amazing and perfectly comedic, and that director was saying, I want you to say everything on the page, then it's a good movie. So be it. But a lot of times you want a little looseness and freshness to comedy. It's like a college coach teaching pro athletes. It's like you can't rein them in. Like these guys know what the fuck they're doing. So take your talent, let them shine, let them fly, support them, and you have to be smart and you have to wrangle the whole vision. But to like really try to be like a father for these guys or whatever, or really hammer them down, it's going to do a disservice to everybody.
I think that's a good analogy. You're right. A lot of these college football coaches try to come up in the NFL and coach, and it's like they can't ever. Some guys can do it. There's obviously exceptions, but a lot of times you'll see, guys. Remember when Nick Saban, he was coaching the Dolphins, and he made a dude cry out in training camp. I don't know if you ever saw it. Guy was like a big old O lineman, I think. And Nick Saban, I have a ton of respect for that guy. My old defensive coordinator, Mark D'Antonio, Michigan State's head coach, came from Saban, and so he's like a Saban disciple. And those guys, man, I have so much respect for them, but they want it done exactly the way that they want it done, and they're not taking anything else. And I saw when Saban did that in Miami, it was I wasn't shocked, I should say, to watch him ride this guy that hard. And you're right. I mean, it's like I would imagine actors don't want some guy that's been directing high school musicals to come up and act like he's the man and has all the answers and can run the show. And you professionals have been doing this for 30 years, and like, all right, buddy, we got this.
Well, people always say or one of the things they say, comedies are like 90% casting. Like you have to have a good script, but if you have Will Ferrell and you're on set telling him everything to do and every choice and where to stand, and he's not going to get to be Will Ferrell, so why did you hire him?
True, yeah. You don't want to micromanage a guy like that,
Yeah.
I would imagine.
When you're in practice or something, can you pitch ideas for a blitz scheme or a defensive coverage?
It would depend who you are, but not so much. I mean, a quarterback can talk to his offensive coordinator, head coach, kind of during a practice and just real quickly give him, hey, guy, what if we were, how about this slot receiver runs this, and change that up a little bit maybe, but nothing. That'll maybe later on, though, like after when you're watching the film of the practice, guys can kind of throw ideas at him, but when it comes down to it, it's always the head coach that has the final decision. So you could show him the greatest blitz ever as a defensive player, and the coach can say, all right, yeah, I'll run that by the coordinator or the head coach and see what they say, and it's 99% of the chance.
They don't generally want input.
Yeah, they want input, but they don't, not that much detailed of input. Yeah, it's like, it all depends on, honestly, the player it's coming from. If some 22-year-old punk rookie is, coach, you need to blitz me, he's not going to do it. So,
yeah.
Is that how would actors, so you have like a scene, let's say, in a movie, and you do it, say you run through the scene once, and you guys pretty much say what was on the pages. Can you go to the director and be like, hey, I want to try it. Let me try this with my shirt off in this scene. Like, will they be like, nah, we're just going to keep moving, or will they let you have some freedom?
They will. Generally, a good comedy director, if you have a good idea and it's funny, they'll let you try it, unless it's like, the last shot of the day and you're running out of time. But you can always pitch ideas, usually with a good director who's loose, and usually good comedy directors are very receptive to input. That's my experience.
Could you give us an example of, let's say, like 2 good comedy directors you think? I won't make you say the bad ones.
No, sure. I just worked with Greg Mottola on a movie in Atlanta called Keeping Up with the Joneses with John Hamm and Zach Galifianakis. Great, laid back, definitely wants input, doesn't give you a ton of notes, hardly any notes at all, and he makes you feel that I hired you because you're good at this, and then you, as an actor, he trusts that you do the script, and he doesn't want to get in your head and make you feel insecure. So he's good. Todd Phillips is good. He's great. He's fun. I'm trying to think who else I've worked with. I've worked with a lot. This guy, Paul Feig, who I'm working with now, another great comedy director, very receptive.
Are you allowed to talk about what you're filming right now?
Yeah, I'm working on a movie called The New Ghostbusters.
Oh, never heard of it. What is that?
It's a remake of an American classic.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, the
reimagining. It's not a remake. It's a reimagining.
Okay, so are any of the original guys in that?
I don't know if I can say.
Oh, yeah.
That one I can't say, but...
we know Matt Walsh is in it, though.
Matt Walsh is in it, yeah. And I'm working with... you ever watch The Wire?
Yeah.
I'm working with Omar.
I saw, yeah, you guys, that was just recently made public that you guys are in that.
Yeah.
So if that's just recently made public and you're already on set shooting, how long have you been auditioning and trying to get that role, or did they write that for you, or how's it go?
They didn't write it for me, but it was an offer where they just call you and say, are you available? Can you come to... I got the call, Thursday of last week, and I had to be there Sunday.
Dang, that obviously getting offers is got to be the greatest as an actor, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Instead of saying, hey, can you come in and read for this? They say, hey, come in and shoot in 2 days.
Yeah.
How does that work? If they call you on Thursday to shoot on Sunday, why so tight? Why didn't they have that planned out farther in advance?
They could have had somebody they couldn't get, quite frankly.
Will they tell you that?
No, I didn't ask.
Don't ask. Matter. I wouldn't ask either.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You got it. Or there's with a big production, there's so many, you got to get the main characters cast. There's so many pieces. There's all this special effects going on. So sometimes it's not a priority. He's probably got 5 guys in his head who could do it. And so he's like, don't worry, I got people in mind. And then, it falls into place pretty well.
Have you had that, say for your role in Old School, did you have to audition for that?
No, they wrote that character called Walsh. I may have gone in the audition room, but it was called Walsh, and I think they had to show me to the executives that were in the room that he can do this part.
Okay. Speaking of executives, like, what is the reason? I've asked other actors this on here. Like, what is the reason that good scripts or good movies, like, either they get ruined when they film or they never even get made? Like, a great script just can't seem to get made. Is it the suits up top? Is it the suits up top that just don't have the creative mind that these directors and actors have, and they just think dollars and cents?
It is dollars and cents. I think people are scared. People are scared at movie studios. They make fewer. There's fewer and fewer movies get made, so everything's a big gamble. So it's always easier to not take a risk and get fired for something flopping than to green light something. So that's the general starting point. And then I think the reason it's hard is I don't know, it's like, why don't you win a Super Bowl every year? It's like, it's hard. It's fucking hard to make a great comedy. It really is. Like, you can have a great script and a great cast and a great director, and it's there. You got to get lucky a little bit. You really do got to get lucky. And you don't know, like when they made The Hangover, I was in that for a little bit. I don't think they knew how big that was going to be. I think they knew they had a solid comedy, but for it to cross over and become this huge hit, it's just a crapshoot. You just got to get lucky. So it's super hard. Not that I don't feel fortunate or I'm not complaining, obviously, but it's a challenge because there's so many moving pieces. There's 100 actors. There's probably 70,000 shots in a movie or something. Crazy amount of coverage, and there's so many variables.
Yeah, and you're not even getting into the whole marketing aspect. You could have filmed a great movie, and if they didn't put their money behind it, it's not going to go.
Yeah, or you could open up against like Independence Day 2, which is going to, just knock you off the charts.
True.
Yeah, that's a whole other, and that's the other thing too. The big change, in the last decade is marketing departments kind of run studios now. It's less coming from the artistic side and more like if you pitch an idea, they want to know what's the poster. They already want to know what's the poster. How are we going to sell this? And then they want trailer moments in that script. So you got to write things that they know they can cut into the trailer that'll get people like excited about it. So it's definitely a money game, and in fewer studios. You can make an indie movie still. Like I've directed a couple movies that are small, so you can still make a funny movie, and people can find it. Like a small audience can find it on Netflix or wherever it ends up. So, but a big comedy that crosses over, that's hard.
I can't imagine how tough it's got to be. I'm trying to think of some good movies that no one would have seen kind of take off. But or you were talking about you can make an indie movie that would take off. I mean, you can always hit like a Swingers, and all of a sudden it's a cult classic. And I've watched the DVD commentary of that, and they're talking about how like they were filming in a bar that was open. Like there's people there, and they were like Vince Vaughn and John Favreau were talking about how like they were describing the shots and saying like, "Oh, watch what Heather Graham." Look, they come up to hit on her, and there's like a guy already talking to her when they were filming a scene. Like it was ridiculous how ragtag the operation was, and they were talking. But they hit gold. Like they had made a great thing, and they got lucky, and everything came together. I'm sure at the time it didn't take off, but it became a cult classic like a lot of these great comedies do. But it's just I don't know. Yeah, there'll never be an equation, and that's what's kind of annoying. I think is that I'm sure these execs are a lot more apt to put out to greenlight Avengers 7 before they would do anything, take any kind of risk, because okay, well we're going to get at least 80 million first weekend or some like that.
That's exactly right. Yeah, they want that big weekend, and they want a known property. If you're making something that's already in a kid's, my kids know about Marvel already, and they've never read a comic book. It's just on posters and in theaters.
Are your kids? Your oldest is 8, you said?
Yeah.
Has she seen any of your work, or he or she?
He. No, most of my stuff's R-rated. They haven't seen that much.
Yeah.
They want to see. I did a tornado movie 2 years ago.
Into the Storm?
Into the Storm, and my boy really wants to see that. And I think because some people die pretty graphically, I don't know. I mean, what age can your kid see a PG-13 movie? 13? 10?
13, man. Who knows what kids are seeing by the age of 13 now with the
I
internet
know.
and
That's the
everything.
other thing. I think pretty soon I'd rather him see it with me than,
Yeah, do you think there'll be I'm trying to think like how funny it's got to be as your kids. They know you, they know Dad. To see you playing this character in a lot of in everything, you played these awesome characters and you're so funny at it. Do you think it'll like freak them out to see you as a different person?
Yeah, I think it would be weird. Or like if they see me die, in the movie, like that's like I die in the movie. Like I don't know what my approach to that is. Like my wife and I have been talking about. Eventually they'll see it, but like being silly but they do know you, so they're gonna feel it deeper. They're gonna be like, oh, that's Dad. That guy Luke Wilson just slapped Dad in the face. You know what I mean?
And then they're gonna hate Luke Wilson for life.
Yeah, which is I don't care. I'll never see him again.
Yeah, I hate Luke Wilson and I've talked to you for 40 minutes here, and I can't stand Luke anymore. So yeah, it makes sense though. It's funny to think about that because you have all these movies and all these shows you've done. Your kids will be able to watch it forever, and as they get older, I'm sure it'll be something that they continue to even like, wow, this is really cool. Like, look at all this stuff our dad has done. Because when they're with you and kids are young, it's just no matter what you do. If you're Obama, it's like, oh, my dad's boring.
Well, what do your kids think about what you do?
Well, they're old. My daughter is old enough now where she understands like football and will see stuff on TV, and they love it. They think it's really cool. My son, he knows enough. He speaks decently well. They like it, but I think it's not even reality for them because it's all they know. So when it's so funny. They're friends. I've said it before on here. I think they know players by their kids, like Jordy Nelson, his son. My daughter will be playing with him, and she'll see my daughter will see Jordy on TV, and she's like, "Oh, Dad, there's Royals' dad," and so like that's how she knows these guys and Aaron and all these great players, and so it's funny to see they're so engrossed in it that they just assume everyone's dad does that.
Do they ever get upset if like a guy on your team gets hurt?
My daughter does a little bit, yeah. She.
How do you explain that, or what do you tell?
Oh, I come up with crazy explanations on things.
Yeah.
She will, like I've had multiple surgeries since she was born, and so she'll see me on crutches or in a splint or whatever, and so I don't think she can fully grasp exactly what was happening. Like I had some foot surgery, ankle deal, like end of January this year, and she knew like, oh, Dad's going down. You're going down to North Carolina to get your ankle surgery, Dad. I'm excited. Dad, you can't wait. The doctor's going to make you feel better, And she, like, it's real, nothing too serious. And then I showed, like, I had some pins in my finger and stuff and huge stitches, and she saw all the stitches and stuff. That's when she first really got freaked out, like a year ago. She saw these crazy stitches and a pin sticking out of my finger, and I think that's the first time it really hit her. Like, oh, this is weird.
Will you let your boy play football?
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how I feel about the whole concussion situation going on in the league. I think it's so early on to know. Like every doctor I talk to, they're like, listen, we know way more than we did 20 years ago. They're like, but we're so far away from understanding this whole situation. And you can't, like a doctor I talked to who had a great point. He said, say a guy gets, has dementia or, the worst is this ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease guys are getting. And say the guy only played in the league, the NFL 3 years, you can't point to the you can't point to that as the reason they may have these issues. They've been playing, like I started playing football in second grade. So I took a lot of shots to the head before I ever got to the NFL. So who knows when this happened? Obviously it's over time, but I don't know. What do you think? Do you let your boy play?
Theoretically, I would say you can play high school. I just feel like
you mean have him wait until high school?
I feel like I would be scared if he got a full ride. I mean, if he wanted to walk on at college, right, to play football, and it wasn't a full ride, I would say you can't play.
Okay, so yeah, you meant just high school and then hopefully just shut it down.
Yeah, just because I feel like the size differential in high school, there's big dudes in high school. But, there's not 350 offensive linemen in high school. There might be a few. But you know what I mean? Like, I feel like the speed it's still, Pee Wee. It still feels a little Pee Wee, even though there's great athletes in high school, but
yeah, I know what you're
feel
saying.
like
I thought you were saying you wouldn't let him play until he got to high school, and that's almost where I want my son to play, but I'm almost thinking I might. I mean, I started in second grade. That's so early now when I think back, but I don't know. Maybe like I think it might be a thing to let the kids start playing later instead of this young developing brain starting in fifth grade. Like we were doing hitting drills every day in practice, just banging on each other. I'm thinking like, I'm sure every day was a big day for the development of my brain back then, and I was just banging it off of dudes' heads every day.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. It's a weird issue. It really is, and it's scary when you see these guys that are, 31 years old with ALS, and you don't know if there's no direct. They can't say for sure, these repeated hits to the head caused it, but it didn't help it. No matter, we know that much. So it's like, what do you? I don't know, man. I think in the next 15, 20 years we'll know a lot more for sure. And I don't know. They're trying to take the right steps to protect people. But if you're wearing helmets, guys are going to get knocked out. You're going to have brain issues because your helmet is why you can hit people with your head.
Right. Now, are you active in the players union? Do you go to meetings?
I'm not a player rep. Like every team has a rep and an alternate. I'm not our player rep. I'm like a quasi backup alternate. Just because I don't want to go to meetings and stuff. But I'm involved a little bit, and I know what's going on with the whole everything.
And do you have a charity? Do you have a charity? Every athlete has a charity.
Yeah. So I used to have really long hair. We just had our event, our fourth one this past 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I started a thing with. I had long hair, cut it off, and started our own foundation called HawkCast for Kids, and we make custom wigs and stuff for kids going through chemo and radiation, and then teamed up with a big cancer hospital here in Columbus, Ohio, for their pediatric area when kids come in for radiation and stuff, trying to help raise money for technology to help them have less, go under less anesthesia and everything for all their treatments. And yeah, it's been great, really good so far.
Do you have a personal connection to cancer? Did you know?
Like my grandpa died of it, but yeah, I mean, everyone has some kind of connection, it seems like. No one right directly, like brothers or sisters right now, luckily, knock on wood, but it's kind of how I got started.
Got into it.
Met multiple awesome people throughout the 4 or 5 years we've started, and bam, people are generous, man. I'm sure I'm sure you go to some of these events, people are pretty awesome on the things that the money they'll put up for a good cause.
Yeah. Do
you go to a lot of are you a big are you out and about in the LA scene of the banquet circuit?
Yeah, they just like you, if you show up at an event, it helps them. I don't necessarily support financially, or I'm not really invested in what they're doing, but I'll go to things if it's a charity event, or I'll do shows to raise money. I do a lot of that. And then I'm kind of involved in this green thing called Global Green that's just getting people to think about ways to make the planet last longer.
Yeah.
And then I do a thing called Awesome Foundation LA, which is just 12 people. Every week we give $100 each into this pot, and then we give $1,000 cash to an awesome idea that makes LA a little better. So we gave $1,000 to a little girl who bought 50 backpacks, filled them with art supplies, painted rainbows on them, called it rainbow packs, and delivered them to underfunded schools. We built a Pinewood Derby track for another inner city community. So for 10 years they can host a Pinewood Derby every year. The track will last for 10, 15 years. We've done ideas like that. We've done storyteller. There's this group called Story Pirates where they get kids to write stories and they act them out for the kids, so it encourages kids to read. There's another one called Libre, where they give books to prisoners. So we gave them $1,000 because a prisoner can write them a letter and say, "Hey, I want to read this book." They'll ship it in the mail and send it to a guy in prison. So it's all kinds of things, but it has to be LA County. It has to help LA.
Okay, that's cool, man. That's if you have links and stuff for all that, we'll put them all up when we post this for sure. That's a pretty
just go to I'll send it. It's awesomefoundation.org, and they're all over. Like New York has one, Chicago has one. They're real grassroots. All the money goes right to the people. It's just like, it's almost like a club, like a book club. We just meet once a month at a bar, have drinks, go through all the submissions, make jokes, talk about what the best ideas are, and then we give away the money. You know, 2 months ago we had a show at the UCB Theater where you ever watch that show Shark Tank?
Yeah.
We did like a Shark Tank thing where the panelists, we had fake judges, comedians playing judges, and at the end of it, everybody won. That was our big surprise. Everybody got a prize. There was like 3 winners.
Oh, I gotcha. All right, man. Well, that's cool. It's actually something that you are involved in, you care about, not just some actor LA thing. Like,
no, it's good and it's different. It's not boring. It's not like the same thing every time. It's like different ideas yeah.
I like it. Yeah, we'll definitely link to that and put it up. But I'm going to start to wrap it up because you've had a long day of filming Ghostbusters. I know that. I'm glad we can say it. And
Yeah.
you're nice enough to come on here from your hotel room. How long are you going to be in town filming that?
I think I'm here for like 3 or 4 more days. I go back to LA for a month and then I come back out.
Okay. So you said now Veep is going to film season 5 in LA. Does that make a huge difference for you being home?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good question. Good hard-hitting question by me there. But I should say,
If you could play all home games, would you?
yes. So
Yeah.
you get to, yeah, it makes sense, I guess. Man, that was a good one. Yeah.
Well, it's probably nice to get out on the weekend, maybe a little once in a
Well,
while.
I mean, I was only thinking like every once in a while. I know I've heard people, like golfers. If a golfer gets real honest with you, every once in a while they'll say, they're like, I hate to say it, but a lot of times they play better when their family doesn't come to the tournament with them, because after
Yeah.
their round, they can go like rest up, take a nap, sit there, reflect, instead of chase their little kids around. So it's like I'm
That's
sure
true.
it's one thing. I'm sure you miss your kids a lot when you're away, but after a 15-hour day of filming, it's not as easy, and you have to try to read your lines for the next day. It's hard to be dad and this comedic genius too.
It'll be true, yeah. It'll be hard to navigate because your kids don't understand if you're tired from filming. You're right. It is. There'll be challenges to it, and it's the first time, so we'll figure it out as it goes. But there's some, you can kind of be, if you're on the road doing a movie, you can only focus on that one thing, and that does help it. But what's good about our show is we're 4 seasons in. You know, we all know our characters. The show's working. There's not a lot to figure out like there used to be.
Yeah, it just made me think of, if I'm thinking there's no way Daniel Day-Lewis's family's ever come to a movie set.
No.
Think about how freaked out his kids would be.
Yeah.
They showed up and they're like, where's Dad? Oh, I see Abe Lincoln over here, and he won't talk to me anymore. And he's talking about freeing slaves right now.
Yeah.
That would freak you out. But I say that with all due respect to Daniel Day-Lewis, because he is the man. Last of the Mohicans is probably my favorite movie.
I've never seen that one.
Oh.
Good?
Do you know what it is? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know the movie.
It's great. I remembered it because I saw it way back in the day. Like one of the first movies I saw in the theater with my dad and dad and brother. So I have
Did it inspire your hairstyle?
Right now, well, if I grew this really
Little bit.
long, maybe, yeah. I rewatched it again like a month ago, and the music, the score, as they say in the business, Matt, was amazing.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I loved it. Yeah. So anytime if you're into the Native American whole fight, and it's a good movie, man. It's a good one. But one more question I have for you, I always like to ask.
Do you know anything about Indian culture?
I wish. I want to. I know enough to just be ignorant. Like, I know a little bit. What about you?
No, I don't know that much. I probably know tribes in Illinois that I grew up in Illinois.
Yeah, I grew up going to a thing called Blue Jacket, like an outdoor Native American like theater that they're riding on horses, shooting flaming arrows back and forth, like simulating these big battles they had. And it was awesome, like in an outdoor amphitheater. And it was around, those guys were around Ohio, like the different areas where I grew up. And so it's cool, man. It's cool when you look back at all those guys. I mean, I got into this too because I was watching Dancing with Wolves the other day too. So, you ever work with Kevin Costner?
Never met Kevin Costner.
Oh, that's like one of my questions. Like, what's the biggest misconception about you and actors in general?
That we know people, probably like, I went back to my high school to teach an acting class, to the kids in high school. And all they wanted to talk about was like, have you ever met Ben Stiller? Have you ever meet Will Ferrell? Have you ever met Michael Douglas? That's all they want to know is just like who. And they also, the other misconception is, which may apply to pro athletes, is they think you're so rich.
Yeah.
They think you're so wealthy just because you're on TV.
I figured that might be your answer. That's because I'm guilty of that. Like we see and a guy like you that seems like you're in so many things. You're like, this dude's got $1 billion. What's he doing? He's not flying private. He doesn't have Trump's plane. Like that's like. No. And then you get into it. Like sometimes aren't a lot of, I don't know, not you personally, but don't people, if you're an actor in a movie and you're not the lead role, aren't you getting scale?
Yeah.
So that's scale true. Through SAG, right? Or whatever
Yep.
you guys is. I remember listening. I don't know if it's real or not. I assume it's true. What Jonah Hill was talking about, how he got scale for, Wolf of Wall Street. He told Howard Stern that, I think, just because he wanted to do the movie so bad that he's like, I got like $60,000 for that role.
Yeah.
When he should have won an Academy Award, probably.
Yeah.
So
what's the biggest misconception about pro football players?
Oh, it's tough because it's a misconception, yet it's true at times. A lot of times for certain people, that they blow all their money and they all just are pieces of garbage and cheat on their wives and don't care. And the problem is I've been in the league 9 years, now going on 10, and I sometimes I have that I look at the people like that because I've been around it, and like it's just like one bad apple can make everybody look bad. So everyone thinks if one guy in the team gets arrested for shooting guns in the air, or doing whatever on 4th of July, that the whole team is garbage and they all are philanderers and don't take care of their kids. And it's not the case. There's still a lot of really good guys, but obviously the guys that are doing the exciting things make the news. And so everybody just assumes that's how everybody, what are you guys just doing coke off of strippers after games? And I'm like, I go home, and usually if a noon game, if it's a 1 o'clock game, my kids go to bed at 7:30, I can hang out with them and eat dinner with them and put them to bed and sit there. Yeah. So it's like boring. It's crazy boring, but so
that's funny.
That's what's a misconception, or what's something that you think like athletes, not just football in general, did you assume about them?
I don't believe it anymore, but I probably thought, because I knew a lot of football. I played football in high school, and I probably thought a little bit of that stereotype that they're animals or meatheads, like the big successful ones. I probably assumed, and I don't anymore, like I said, but I probably assumed back in the day that like, oh, that guy, I don't want to hang out with that guy. He's a meathead. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very. I mean, trust me. There's tons of meatheads. I don't claim to not be one. I mean, I'm with you.
And I love football. I'm a big NFL guy. I love football, so it's not like but that would be my stereotype. Like the one guy in my class who got recruited to play at Penn State or whatever was the biggest asshole in the whole school, basically. You know what I mean?
That does happen, though. You're right. I mean, that's not like a misconception. That's kind of true a lot of times, more than not, is the guy, like the big man on campus syndrome, like that turd. Like I hate that dude.
Yeah.
And I hope I never came across that, like, to anybody. You got to be an idiot to be that dude. Because especially, and when you look back, I tell my kids this already, everyone that was cool in high school is a loser, by the way. Not everyone. Can't give broad statements there, take me out of context. But if you were like super cool in high school and you go back and look at those guys now, most of them have pill addictions and live with their parents and, are trying to find a job.
Yeah, the nerds win, don't they?
That's true, especially now. Look at it. Look how the nerds are taking over now.
Now, do you have any side businesses to make your millions when you're done playing football?
Oh, yeah, just like every other athlete, I own a bunch of car washes.
For real?
No. Haven't you heard that? Haven't you heard of guys like a lot? It seems like for the longest time, athletes all want to own car washes. Oh, well, I got these 3 car washes over in Montana. I'm like, why? What idiot got you into that? And there's so many. That's something else that's so funny about pro sports is and I'm sure actors and people get it a lot too. Like the type of investments people bring to athletes. And athletes are so stupid. Like, you know what? I'm not talking about millions. I'm talking about billions. I want to be a billionaire. And I'm like, well, you might just want to try to play sports as long as you possibly can, because that's how we're all going to make the most money. But yeah, I have little things. I have a couple people I trust that do things here and there, just tiny little whatever, nothing risky to try to make sure that I can.
But like, have you ever opened a restaurant?
No.
Have you ever opened a sports complex?
No,
like
but there's
AJ Hawk's workout room.
No, there's a place called, I don't know if you've heard of D1. There's like, they partner with local athletes and all of them. There's like probably 25 of them throughout the U.S. and like a couple other athletes. They use like, I'm one of the tiny investors in that one building in Columbus, but it's not like nothing serious. It's not, I didn't get into it to make millions. I didn't, that wasn't the case. I worked out there for a long time, but no, like, see, restaurants too, like, you got to be there. Like, if you want a restaurant, one of my best friends growing up, they own a restaurant. He's still there 90 hours a week, basically.
Yeah, that's a nightmare.
But I've seen all of basically, if an athlete or a teammate of mine brings me something that they tell me is going to make me money, I immediately will not make sure I don't even read it.
How about a sports drink? Did you ever try to develop a sports drink?
I have not.
Apparel. Did you ever start your own apparel line?
No way. But that's something that a lot of wives love to do. A lot of wives of players that are bored love to open up. She's got a nice fashion line. There's like 12 wives in the team with their own fashion line of shoes or clothes. I'm like, all right, good luck for the husband to dump his money into.
And how about post football? Do you want to be a broadcaster?
Yeah, I want to do some form of broadcasting. I think I want to do color commentary for games. I'd like to. Like Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, like Troy's job.
Sure.
Play-by-play those guys are ridiculously talented and so smart and so good. You don't see any former players doing play-by-play. You go to college for that, and you have to work, which you still have to work to become a great color commentator. But I'd like to do that just to kind of be at the games and be able to call games, and then branch into many different forms of it. Hopefully other sports someday. I'm going to continue this thing. This whole podcast deal is all on my own. It's not like no one put me up to it. I just listened to other people's podcasts and started it and send random people like you texts and emails to try to get you to come on.
Yeah. What's your favorite podcast? What do you listen to like regularly?
Well, I mean, Joe Rogan is my number one. He's what got me into podcasts. Listen, and then I branched out into a ton from there. I don't really listen to any sports ones really. I mean, Bill Simmons' stuff he had on Grantland when he was still there. I love how he's pretty open and honest. But I'm
comedy ones. Do you listen to a lot of comedy ones?
Yeah, I mean, Mark Maron. He just had Obama on.
I listen to him.
I scroll through all the. I'm trying to think. I don't know if you know.
Did you ever check out Horatio Sands?
What's his called?
Horatio.
I've heard like one episode back in the day of like because I scroll through and see guests. Is his good?
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. Yeah, it's good. Check it out.
Okay, yeah, I will, man. Is that what else? Like, what ones would you listen to? Because I'm always.
I just got hooked on this one called Hardcore History.
Dan Carlin?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You listen to that?
Oh God, that dude's a genius.
Isn't he?
Are you kidding me? Like they should play that to high school kids just for class.
Yeah.
Like, hey, just put your head down and listen to this hour-long podcast or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I just listened to World War I, which was like 20 hours.
Yeah, like how?
It's awesome.
Can you imagine the amount of work that goes into each one of those?
He's a genius. I agree with you. He's a brilliant mind.
He's legit. I mean, did you listen to the whole Serial deal when Serial came out?
Listen to Serial.
That was really
And then
good.
the other one I got into was, I still listen to occasionally, On Being. It's kind of like smart spiritual stuff. It's kind of like, it's a lady named Krista Tippett, and she might get like the Dalai Lama on, but it's smart. It's not like, it's not frou-frou or like too spiritual. It's like really smart people talking about their spiritual practice, what they believe in, and she only asks one question at the same time, which is like, what was your religious background as a kid? And then it can go anywhere. It can go talk about psychology, it can talk about Buddhism, it can talk about, anything.
It's called On Being?
On Being, yeah.
Okay. Oh, On Being, B-E-I-N-G.
Yeah, On Being, yeah.
B-E-A-N. That's how dumb I am.
No.
Yeah, I just listened today, actually, to Tim Ferriss, 4-Hour Work Week.
Yeah.
Tim had General McChrystal on with another guy that was his right-hand man in Navy SEAL, and it was
awesome.
It was good, man.
Yeah.
Really good.
That guy's great. I've listened to him a little bit.
Yeah, if he has a guest that I'm really interested in, I love it. It's yeah, it's a good one.
Or the other guy that's good is Brian Koppelman.
Oh, I had him on here. Yeah.
Did you?
He was a guest. Oh, Brian's like wrote Rounder. Have you ever done a movie that he had written?
No.
So you've been, yeah, The Moment, of course.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of his, and then Rounders is one of my favorite movies of all time. Have you seen Rounders?
No.
Oh, dang. See, you're too involved. You're too involved in the world to watch these movies, aren't you?
No, I'm a little embarrassed that I haven't seen a couple of the ones we've talked about. I should have seen them, but I watch a lot of documentaries, and I've seen a lot of movies, but I don't. I probably have more gaps in my I would probably watch less comedies than you would think.
Well, I would understand that. I mean, people assume that I watch every football game that's ever played, and I'm like, no, I don't really, unless I have a direct connection to that game, like my college roommate is playing or something, I don't really go out of my way to see it. So,
do you watch sports movies? Do you like sports movies or no?
I mean, I like Varsity Blues. I don't know if
but I mean, if it's like a feel good, Remember the Titans or.
I like Remember the Titans. What I haven't seen is the Blind Side movie, though.
Oh, the book's really good.
Is it?
See, and the movie's pretty good.
I was for some reason I wasn't like inspired to see the Blind Side movie. I heard it was good. I think the book is really good because it talks about how the offensive tackle became the big money player after the quarterback. Like when that happened, when people were, it's kind of the evolution of that position, and that guy was a blindside tackle. And then that guy, I think it was Krakauer who wrote it, and he covers that guy, Michael Oher, but he also covers the development of football and how that position is the rare athlete that can play that position and how much money they started getting. And people laughed at the first team to draft a tackle for big money, but he ended up playing 10 years and extended the quarterback's career another 5. You know what I mean? Like the investment of that. Krakauer, yeah, man. He wrote Where Men Win Glory. Read that one? I don't know if you see it.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I haven't seen that. I read it Under the Banner of Heaven.
Oh God, is that where the Mormon guys killed their wives or kids or whatever?
Yeah.
That was horrible. I mean, it's true, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that killed me. Like that was brutal.
All right, let me ask you a question before I go. After quarterback, what's the most important position on a pro football team? To impact.
Great question.
To impact like your winning record, not that it'll get you Super Bowl, but that might statistically, if you had a stud, best guy in the league at that position.
I mean, quarterback obviously far and away number one.
Yeah.
But 2, I would say. I would go. It's a great question, man. I would go defense and say if you have an absolute legit shutdown corner that can take away their number one receiver. Like if a guy could find a way to limit like a guy like Calvin Johnson or these monsters in the league, a guy like that could really help you out. Because then you can do so many things. You could be like, all right, well, he's got Revis, whoever, he's going to lock this guy down, and then all the rest of us 10 are going to play a combination of things to take away everybody else.
All right, I'm going to ask you. I'm a Bears fan.
Mm-hmm.
Did you cover Brandon Marshall? Did you play against him?
I played against him, yeah.
Was he tough to cover?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not out there as a linebacker covering him too much, but he's a big old dude that would come in and block you and stuff. And so I respect a guy like that that'll come in and try to hit you. And I like him. I respect his how he plays. He's passionate. You could tell. Do you like him?
Yeah, he's gone. But yeah, I'm just asking connection. I'm just trying to make a connection.
Do you like Jay Cutler?
Not really.
See, everyone in Chicago seems to have issues with him. I don't know, man. I mean, obviously, I think people they don't like his body language after he throws an interception or something. Is that right?
Well, I think more so they gave him the keys to the kingdom. They built an offense around him. They gave him money. He gave us 6 years or whatever we've had him. We've kind of seen what he does. He's an average to above average quarterback, but I don't think I kind of feel like we've seen his best. That's all. I don't hate him.
Yeah,
I know he's like a difficult personality or whatever. That doesn't bother. If he was the guy that would get a Super Bowl or get us, deep in the playoffs, I'd love him.
Yeah,
but that's all.
You guys got John Fox now. John Fox.
He's a good coach, right?
He's the man. I love John Fox.
You met him?
Yeah, I met him at this golf tournament I play in Lake Tahoe every summer, and he is awesome dude. My brother-in-law played for him in Denver, loved him. I've only heard good things about him. So
good.
You guys are in good hands. Hopefully.
Yeah, I can't believe Denver just got rid of him that quick.
I don't even know. Who knows what happened there? Like what? And him and Elway were like best friends, I thought.
Yeah, like were they blaming the fade out of the Broncos on him? Like
someone's got to take the hit, I guess. Who knows? At some point, something that'll all come out in the wash, and someone.
Yeah, unless like Peyton Manning didn't like him and said, "I want him gone." But I bet he didn't care. Like I bet he let Peyton Manning do what he wanted.
Yeah, a guy like Peyton probably runs the show for the most part, I think.
Yeah.
At least the offense. So yeah, I don't know, man. It'll be a fun season.
Yeah.
Connection that you probably wouldn't like, but Mel Tucker, who was the defensive coordinator in Chicago, he's been gone a year or two at least, was the DB coach at Ohio State when I was in college and I played there.
Really?
Yep. So
interesting.
No
comment.
Their defense.
No comment.
Do you know who Mel Tucker is?
I do. No comment on Mel Tucker.
Yeah, he's a great dude.
I don't doubt it.
His defense wasn't ranked high, I guess, whatever. So they get rid of you, man. Who knows? Coaching's a brutal game. I know that.
Yeah. Would you ever coach?
I don't think so. Nah, right now I'm definitely too close to the game, I think, but I don't want to start moving around, and you got to, once you're in that whole coaching carousel, if you want to move up,
you got to travel.
You got to go. You could be fired instantly just because your head coach got fired, and boom, you got to find a way to get a gig somewhere else. And at this moment, I can't see wanting to move my family all over. I like it. I built a house in Columbus, Ohio. Plan on staying there, and that's why I think I'd like to do some form of broadcasting. Could stay here, go.
And are you? So you're there. That's not where you're from, is it? Ohio?
I'm from Ohio. Yeah, like the Dayton area, Centerville High School. Yep, Centerville High School, and I'm from about an hour and a half from where I'm at in Columbus, and.
Oh, that's great.
I love it, man. Yeah, so not too a Midwest guy, just like you, even though you uprooted and went to L.A. and became a star.
Yeah.
I came back home. You go back and people ask you about actors you worked with and if you know this guy, and then you come on this podcast and I ask you the same question. So, have you met what about Christian Bale? Actually, I love Christian Bale, by the way.
He's amazing.
God, I love when he freaked out. Amateur man! When he yelling at the dude. We'll get into that. I'll have you on here again some other time. We'll talk about
I will. I'll come back. I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to interview you a little more.
Whatever you want, man. Yeah, this is all completely whatever.
Okay.
Whatever we want is what it is. But, yeah, I really appreciate it, man. I know I kept you long. Where can people find you on the internet and anything, like Twitter, all that stuff?
I do Twitter, Mr. Matt Walsh at Twitter, no period. And I directed a little indie comedy called A Better You that'll be on iTunes in October.
Okay. A Better You. We can.
A Better You.
If there's a site for that too, my buddy Todd who runs it, we'll put a link to all your stuff, the movie, everything. And I think so. You directed it?
Yeah.
Did you write
it? It's an improvised comedy.
Oh, so you have outlines and they kind of go with it?
Yep.
Like
the first one I directed is, you should watch High Road. I directed a movie called High Road.
High Road. Okay. Is it on iTunes or Netflix?
It's on Netflix or iTunes. Yeah, it's out there.
Sweet. High Road. Well, we'll put a link to all this stuff, man. I mean, everyone, I think, is whether they know it or not, like everyone's a fan of you and they know of you, and your work is awesome, man. You continue to do two great things and very funny. And
thank you.
So thank you very much again for coming on. And while he's on set filming Ghostbusters, to let people know what your life is like, you go film all day and then you come on here to this scrubby little podcast of mine and call me, and I appreciate you, man. So you're the best.
All right, brother. We'll do it again.
For sure. Thanks a lot.
Okay. All right. Later, AJ.
Bye.
We're glad you could join us for today's conversation. After you subscribe to the show, head over to thehawkcast.com or reach out to AJ directly on Twitter at @officialAJHawk to recommend future guests that will help us inspire people to keep talking. Thanks again, and we look forward to speaking with you next time on the HawkCast.